anyone that's built a company, a successful company, understands the value of culture. They realize that it takes, they understand that you can scale to a degree, you can grow to a degree, but if you really want to build a successful business, the reason people stay, frankly, the reason your customers stay, your clients stay, is because of the culture, right? Because you can go buy a product anywhere, right? There's always going to be a competitor. There's always going to be somewhere else you can spend your money. There's always going to be somewhere else you can get a job. But the reason people stay usually is the culture, right? And that has a big part of that is human connection.
Welcome back to Stories That Move. I'm your host, Matt Duell, Chief Impact Officer and co-founder of Dream On Studios. And co-hosting with me today is our Chief Operations Officer, Alexis Grant. Today's guest is a globally recognized keynote speaker, best-selling author, and one of the leading voices on workplace belonging and human connection. When companies are looking to transform their culture and build more trust, engagement, and meaning in the workplace, they call Adam Smiley Pozwalski. Smiley has spoken to hundreds of organizations around the world, and we're thrilled that he'll be one of the keynote speakers at the Warsaw Growth Summit coming up on November 6th. Consider this conversation a bit of a warm-up for what's to come. So without further ado, let's welcome Smiley Pozwalski to Stories That Move. Hey friends, welcome back to Stories That Move. I'm your host. My name is Matt Duell, and I'm here with Alexis Grant.
Hey Matt, how are you?
I am so good. How are you doing today?
Good. Excited for our episode.
Absolutely. So many of you know that have been listening that we have the Warsaw Growth Summit coming to Warsaw on November 6th, and we've had the privilege to have a handful of those speakers come on the podcast, share a little bit of their story. And so today we have another amazing guest that's going to be with us in Warsaw. So our guest is a globally recognized keynote speaker, best-selling author, and workplace belonging expert. I'm excited to unpack what that means. So when companies want to drive culture, transformation, increase trust, belonging, human connection, and team environment, they call our guest Adam Smiley Pozwalski. Adam, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited for the Warsaw Growth Summit in November, so it's great to have this conversation today with you all.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And hey, let me just take care of this right at the top. Do you like going by Adam or you like going by Smiley?
Smiley works.
Okay.
I can tell. Right. I'll tell that story because my mom did not name me Smiley, but I'll give you the full background at some point. We'll get into it.
Very cool. Well, hey, take a moment, introduce yourself to our audience, let them know a little bit about you and some of the work that you're up to in the world today.
Sure. Well, it's great to be on. Thanks everyone for listening. My name is Adam Smiley Pozwalski. I am a keynote speaker, an author, workplace belonging expert. So I help companies build a culture of belonging and human connection in the future of work, with everything kind of facing, modern day workplace, whether it's hybrid, multi-generational, AI, culture change, all the things. I help companies, teams, organizations really figure out how they can motivate their people, engage their people, attract top talent, retain top talent, and create a culture where everyone wants to do their best work and stays. And is excited to show up every single day. So I've been doing this work about 10 years. I've done 700 keynotes in 25 countries. So a lot of experience, and I love it. I'm not going anywhere. I kind of want to do it for the rest of my life, and awesome. Really feel very blessed that I get to do what I do every single day.
Oh, amazing.
So cool.
So good. Okay, so rewind for us. Tell us where you're from originally. What was life like for you as a kid?
Yeah, so I currently live in California, in the Bay Area, San Francisco, California. But I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts. Oh, wow. And I went to a very big public high school. I was always kind of a kid that kind of felt like I didn't quite fit in, was a little bit nerdy, kind of got picked on, kind of just like one of those, not sure my place type of things. And I went to a very big public high school in Boston. There were over 2,000 kids in my high school. I wanted to play a sport my freshman year. And you can't see me if you're listening to the audio, or you all can't see me either when we're recording, but I'm not that big of a dude. You can trust me. So football was not going to happen, out of the question.
Okay.
Soccer also not going to happen. Our soccer team's like the best team in the state. And hockey, I mean, obviously, come on, no. So I went out for one of the only sports left, which was cross country.
Okay.
Now, I didn't know what the sport was. I assumed it was skiing.
Oh, no.
But it's actually running. You just go run, a few miles or 5 miles or 10 miles on the weekend. So we're doing hill workouts a couple weeks into practice, and I'm just kind of smiling, having a good time, running up and down the hill. And my coach, kind of hard-nosed Boston guy, starts screaming at me like, "What the hell are you doing smiling? Stop smiling, kid. Stop smiling. Stop puking, kid. Stop puking." So then the team nicknamed me Smiley. And I was like one of the slowest kids on the team. I never placed at any of our races, but I was like our cheerleader. I'd be like, "Come on, we got to go. Like, we got this. We're going to win." So I was like that kid. I'm sure like a lot of you listening probably like, I was that kid on my little league team or my, track team or whatever, basketball team, swim team, whatever. You're not like really good, but you have a role, right?
Yes.
And I ended up running kind of cross country, indoor and outdoor track, all 12 seasons, all 4 years of high school. And I became captain my senior year.
Oh, that's awesome.
I was still one of the slowest kids on the team.
Yeah.
But I had this role to play. So that was kind of my first experience of really belonging and having the sense that like everyone on the team matters. You matter, you belong. Like whether you're the fastest kid on the team, whether you've been with the company for 20 years, for 2 years, for 2 weeks, you matter, you belong. So that was like really a formative experience for me. And really gave me this kind of place in a very large high school. If you can, everyone can remember freshman year of high school. It's like, oh my gosh, it's brutal. Overwhelming. Yeah, it's just brutal. Right. Especially if you're like not quote unquote one of the cool kids or whatever. And so that was just like this huge experience of I think shaping who I am in terms of like, oh, I have this huge gift to give. Like I'm a very outgoing, extroverted, happy person. I love people. I love connecting. But that kind of gave me this kind of voice and kind of made me feel like I had a role to play.
Yeah.
So that was very formative for me. And is something that I think has really shaped obviously my work today, but even just me as a human being.
Awesome. So obviously such a huge formative piece of who you are today. What was the next step for you out of high school?
After high school, I kind of went on a little bit of a wandering career path.
Okay.
I think it's very important. A lot of times, we hear from speakers or people that seem leaders that seem, they have it all figured out. And, it's very easy to kind of say that looking back now, especially with what I do now. But at the time, I went to college. I went to a liberal arts college, small school. I studied film studies in college. And then I moved to New York City. I was kind of figuring it out. But I felt pretty lost. I then moved to DC. I was working for the United States government for a little while. Wow. And felt just unsure of who I was. And this was a time around, I think a lot of people, there was a big shift of like, I'm a millennial, I'm an elder millennial. So I was born in the early 80s. Kind of understanding that work wasn't just about, getting a paycheck, but also about this sense of like purpose or meaning, or like I want something more from my career than just paying the bills, right? And I want something more from my life than just like a house and, retiring at the age of 65. And wait, I can't even buy a house. So like, I definitely want something more. Like I want my days to have meaning, right? I want to do something that I want to do, not just that other people say is a good job. And so I was in this kind of what I call my quarter life crisis in throughout most of my 20s, up until really like the age of 30. So this is about a little over 10 years ago. And I ended up quitting my job in Washington, D.C. I had this job that on paper was, a good job, right? Like government job, like good security, job security, benefits, etc. Sure. And it, decent salary, but kind of realizing that I was internally very, very unhappy. I mean, I was stressed out. I had panic attacks at night. I got shingles, which is like a nerve disease related to stress. Yeah. Gross. And really kind of mustering up the courage to be like, okay, I want to do something different with my life, right? I don't know what that is. And I started kind of writing about my quarter life crisis, what I was going through, the search for meaning. I started a blog on WordPress for $18.
Yeah.
There we go.
And a lot of people were like, you're a really great writer. Like, you should write a book. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to write a book. So I end up self-publishing this book called The Quarter Life Breakthrough, which is kind of about my career change, my career evolution, and it sold 10,000 copies on Amazon, which is a lot. It's a lot for any book.
A whole lot, yeah.
But for a self-published book,
yeah.
it's a lot. And then that kind of led to my work now as a thought leader and as a speaker. So that book ended up getting picked up by Penguin Random House. So I republished it. And then I really kind of learned that there was a lot of interest on the corporate side of how do we attract, retain millennials? How do we keep people happy at work? What is this new generation? And now, of course, Gen Z looking for in the workplace in terms of meaning and purpose and flexibility and community and connection, all of these different things. How is the workplace shifting? And, so there's like that great Miles Davis quote where it's like, it takes a long time to get to sound like yourself, right? It takes a long time to kind of get where you're going. And, anyone that tells you like it's a straight line, I think is kind of, it's crap, right? It sometimes is a little bit of a winding road, and you got to kind of see what works for you and find yourself. So it took me, at least 35 years to kind of figure out really, there are clues along the way, but really kind of get into like who I really am and who I really, what I meant to do.
Yeah. Excellent.
That's awesome. I've got lots of life to figure out still. If it took you 35 years,
we all do. That's the point. That's why we're here. That's why we're here.
There you go. That's awesome. Well, tell me more about, I guess, so you were able to publish that book. It was picked up by Penguin House. Then what? What, I guess, inspired you to kind of go on this journey of, you said 25 countries that you've spoken at. How did that happen?
Yeah. For me, it was kind of just realizing that I really enjoyed the speaking, right? And that there was interest there and that I could have an impact there. Like, I think I'm somebody that, when you write a book and you put it out there, like you might get like somebody might write you a note or an Amazon review or something. They might send you like, this was really meaningful or thank you for this. But when you're speaking in front of a room, you get this immediate sense of feedback and appreciation. You can see how it's affecting someone from their facial expressions, their body language in the room, their laughter, right? How they kind of
engage,
how they open up a little bit or how they engage with it. And I just started to realize as I was speaking that, wow, like this is really something that I love and this is something that I'm good at. In a way that was kind of unique and different than anything I'd ever done in my life, including writing. And I enjoy writing, and I think I'm a good writer. But I really kind of, the first time I ever did a speaking engagement, it was to do the crowdfunding campaign for my book, for my self-published book. Wow. So to be clear, like I spent money, I paid money. I didn't get paid.
Yeah.
I rented out a space. I got a case of wine and a case of beer. I got cheese and crackers.
Love it.
Like it cost me a couple $100. I invited some of my friends, and that was the first time I ever gave a talk.
Okay.
So that's where it went from. And I'll be honest, like there is a line from that I still use that I used in that very first talk. And I guess that would have been 2013, 2014. So, it just goes to show, like, if you start, you just don't know what's going to happen. And if you just kind of listen to your heart and if something is on your heart and you feel like you might have an urge there, you see, and maybe it's not the right thing, right? That happens all the time, or maybe you can't figure out the financials. But I think, I'm a thought leader, I'm a speaker, but I'm also an entrepreneur. Like I really identify with being a creative entrepreneur, and my creative story and my journey is about putting yourself out there. Like when I started, I couldn't get a book deal. That's why I self-published. Like I went to an editor at a local publishing house in San Francisco, and they're like, yeah, we're not going to give you a book deal. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, it's a great idea. I'm a good writer. They're like,
Right.
yeah, we're just not going to give you a book deal. Like, you have no traction. You have no followers. You have no platform. You've never really published anything. Like, your mom follows you on Facebook. That's it. Like, like, good for you.
You're right.
Who cares, and this is, in the, before Instagram was big, before TikTok was big. I mean, it's early social media.
Yeah, right.
But not the current kind of landscape. And so I self-published, and I ran a crowdfunding campaign like Kickstarter, Indiegogo. I don't know I'm sure some folks are familiar with those.
Yep.
And I put myself out there, and then I realized, there are all these other people. People were giving me money to pre-order the book that I'd never met before, right? And I'm like, whoa, 512 people are backing this book. Most of them are strangers. Like, that's so cool. Like, that's so powerful when you put out your voice. And I realized that there was something, your podcast is called Stories That Move, but like, when you put out a story and if it resonates and connects and other people are like, oh, that's similar to my story, or I see elements of my story in your story, like it creates this incredible ripple effect, this incredible kind of power.
Yeah.
And a lot can happen from there.
Awesome. So obviously you were, through your journey, through your life story, you had a message that was connecting in a really big way. So unpack for us a little bit more of workplace belonging. What does that mean to you, and why do you feel like it matters now, maybe more than ever before?
Yeah, so, I kind of keep the definition of workplace belonging is pretty simple. Is being able to be yourself at work, is feeling like you matter at work, is feeling like you're a part of something, that you have a role, like kind of similar to my story of, me on that cross country team back in high school.
Yeah.
And I think why it's so important today is that just the majority of people don't feel that way. Yeah. They don't really feel that way in the world, right? Let alone in the workplace. So if you look at the data, like 70% of Americans are disengaged at their jobs, right?
Yeah.
1/5 of those people are so disengaged, they're actively undermining their coworkers' work. So they're literally getting paid by their employer, by their job, to screw things up, to mess things up for their company. It's like, I'm going to pay someone that's actively like undermining what we're doing here. Like, can you imagine? That's 1/5 of those disengaged folks. And then you kind of broaden out and you look at the loneliness epidemic, right? 50% of Americans right now are lonely, 1 in 2. So you have all these people, 40% of workers don't feel a strong sense of connection to their coworkers, 40% don't trust their coworkers. So you have all of these things happening where people basically are showing up to work every day, whether they work in person at a factory or at a restaurant or for a software company or at a hospital or hybrid remote, whatever it is, they don't really feel this strong sense of connection. We're more disconnected than ever, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But the point being, people don't feel the sense of belonging at work, right? And people feel really disconnected. And it leads to a lot of, frankly, just a bottom line business losses, right? Yeah. So lonely, disconnected employees, 45% lower productivity, lower quality of work, higher risk of turnover. They cost their employers $150 billion per year in lost productivity. So this is like a major opportunity for companies that I think we're not paying attention to kind of build a sense of belonging. I think a lot of times people think of belonging as something soft, as something, we'll get to it later. We'll do it at the team retreat, like once a year. We'll do a team building thing. We'll do a trust fall or whatever. And that's not what it is. It's actually like the ability to show up and have your coworker know who you are, know your name, know your birthday, know if you have kids, their names, their birthdays, like what you like to do, what you don't like to do, who you are in the world, what your goals are, where you want to be in 5 years, if something's going on for you at home, right? Something going on in your family, with your parents, with your kids, whatever, like that type of thing. That's a sense of belonging. And I think especially, kind of in this world now, and also, and even more importantly, with the huge shift to AI, right? AI is an incredible tool. It's helping people become more efficient. but it's also leading, I think, increasing disconnection because people, are now talking to AI agents or,
Right.
Yeah.
Using ChatGPT to talk to a quote unquote therapist or to, have a chatbot instead of a friend, like all of these things. People are losing that human connection. So I think my work is super important in this kind of digital age, technological age, hyperspeed, overwhelm.
So I'm curious, how do you talk to maybe business owners, executives? Maybe it's people that are, responsible to the stakeholders or the shareholders of the company. And, like you mentioned, maybe they're working in a factory and it's like, we just need people to show up and do the work, or a restaurant of like, we just need somebody to wash the dishes. Like, how do you engage, with those leaders to help them see the importance of what you're talking about?
I often, especially with leaders, really really emphasize the data, right? Because I think that the data is hard to ignore, and it kind of makes a real business case for this stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mentioned it's like, cool, you want people to just show up. Well, if you people don't feel connected, they're going to not show up, right? Like lonely employees have more missed days at work, double the sick days, lower productivity, lower quality of work, higher risk of turnover, high levels of connection, 56% increase in job performance, 50% drop in turnover risk, 18 times more promotions, double the raises, 170% increase in the chance that you're going to recommend your job to somebody. So like, hey, we're hiring, you should work here. I love my job. Right. Which is really important. Right. That's how a lot of people hire, is like, hey, who do you know who could work here?
The referrals.
Which results in kind of is annual savings of $52 million. So I really like to present and rely on the data because I think it makes business leaders realize that this is something super important, and they can see the tangible kind of bottom line impact of this stuff. Anyone that's built a company, a successful company, understands the value of culture.
Yeah.
Yes.
They realize that it takes, they understand that you can scale to a degree, you can grow to a degree, but if you really want to build a successful business, the reason people stay, frankly, the reason your customers stay, your clients stay, is because of the culture, right? Because you can go buy a product anywhere, right? There's always going to be a competitor. There's always going to be somewhere else you can spend your money. There's always going to be somewhere else you can get a job.
Yeah.
But the reason people stay usually is the culture, right? And that has a big part of that is human connection.
Yeah.
Now, I was going to share just even a side story. So I joined Dream On Studios in the fall, but prior to that, I was at a marketing company for literally 2.5 weeks. In that, the experience that I had, I joined the team. They said all the right things during the interview process. So even just like, you can imagine the excitement of my first day. But not once did anybody ask me, what's your husband's name? Tell me about your family. What's your favorite color? So glad you're here. My name's Alexis. Yep. I was called Alexa for the first week by, I think, 8 or 9 different people of just like, wow. Do you see me? Do you hear me? Do you know me? Do you care for me? Just those fundamental questions even a child asks. And so to your point, it's like, are you hiring for productivity, or are you hiring because that's the person you want in your team and they're bringing more than just, product and time, but true value as a person, right? And so, I think you hit it right on the spot of like, culture matters so much. I mean, I quit the second weekend and they didn't even blink. They're like, oh, okay. I'm like, what in the world? Fortunately, Dream On came along, and so still here.
But
Great
you may
culture.
may have a client for Smiley though to connect with and
I
help
think
them.
you really need to help them out. That's why. And again, it's not even like, it's not hard to just look at somebody in the eye and say, hey, I'm so glad you're here. Tell me more about you.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So with that, Smiley, we have, a number of, entrepreneurs who follow our show and listen, and small business owners. What would your encouragement be to them with what they're doing, their teams, their clients? How should they be doing this the right way?
Yeah, I think that, there's a lot, but I think, one way to think about it, and Alexis kind of mentioned this, but is to really kind of understand that like belonging is everyone's job. And I think that like we used to kind of, there's this sense of like, oh, that's HR, or like, I don't have to worry about that. So, you know, maybe that's the chief of people, chief cultural officer, like somebody else over there is focused on this stuff. And I can just do my job. I can focus on the numbers, or I can focus on revenue or sales or growth or whatever my, you know, accounting, whatever I'm responsible for, marketing. Yeah. And then somebody else will worry about belonging. But I actually think that, especially in the kind of current future of work and where we are today, that's all of our jobs, right? Yes. And it doesn't always take a lot. So like, I think like, you know, I offer, and you'll see in my talk, but I offer a bunch of practical tips and tools like people can use, right? Whether it's like not always talking about work, creating that 1 minute, 5 minutes at the start of a meeting for people to have a check-in. You know, trying one new thing every meeting, like having small win parties where people can celebrate little things, not even huge accomplishments along the way, doubt clubs, and where people can share mistakes and things that they're nervous or scared about. Yeah, so I'll go into more of those when we're all together in Warsaw. But just like realizing that that's everyone's job now, and that I think like that, and it's going to make you better at your work. It's going to actually help the work, whatever department you're in or whatever you're working on day to day. Yeah. To focus on that connection and create that time and space for the connection too. Yeah. It'll help the bottom line. It'll actually help with the sales. It'll help with the business growth, with, you know, like with attracting new customers and clients. I mean, anyone that is in a relationship, anyone that is in some form of a sales business will understand the value of relationships. Like the reason that somebody stays with you or buys a house from you if you're in real estate, or buys a car from you, or even comes to your restaurant every Friday night with their family, is mostly because of the people, right? Yeah. Because they have those deep relationships, because somebody knows their name, because they're building, somebody is understanding them as a person. They feel seen, they feel heard, they feel celebrated. And I think that that's only more important in today's world.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, millennials, I think, really helped to maybe start some of this movement inside the workplace. How much more is Gen Z leaning in? What are you seeing generationally, and just some of the tendencies and things that just feel like, yes, this is what this generation is moving us even more so towards the belonging?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's really important to kind of just like set the context for Gen Z, right? It's a smartphone generation that does not know a world without the iPhone, right? Like, you know, in terms of the speed at which things are happening, right? This generation that kind of always, you know, like it used to be that you double clicked, right? Like that's too much work now. So you swipe
one
right.
tap, swipe right.
Yeah.
Right. Just like swipe right to get like an Uber. You can get food delivered. You can get a date. Like all of these things happening so quickly, and then coming to the workplace and that not happening. Right.
Yeah.
Like you can't swipe right to be like get promoted.
Let me try that.
And I think that is like a big thing for Gen Z. It's like, you know, like swipe right. Like, it's like, you just got here. Like, you know, I want to get a promotion. It's like, it's your third day. Like, you know, I want to get a raise. Like, you've been here for 3 weeks. Like, swipe right. So I think that is a huge kind of learning gap and learning curve. Like, so to understand that, like, you know, on the one hand, companies do need to move faster, and they are super slow, and their policies and procedures are probably dated. But on the other hand, there's a reason why people have to spend some time at a place to kind of get promoted to kind of it takes some time. Like, yes, you can be hungry, but like things are not going to happen as fast as you think, as they happen on your device, on your phone. Right. So that there's a little bit of like a give and take there, or kind of like setting realistic expectations. But I also think, you know, like people, you know, young people are really looking for the sense of like personal growth at work. So not just professional growth, but the ability to kind of grow as a person, to thrive as an adult. Right, to like how to navigate this complex, overwhelming world that they find themselves in. This like really kind of hard, like constant, fast-paced moving, things that are changing so quickly. They're looking for their boss to kind of be like a mentor or a guide, right? A coach, not just a boss or a supervisor, right? so that sense of purpose has become a lot more personal, right? It's not just about like the mission of the organization, like that's cool, but also like what is the mission of the individual? What is the mission of the employee? What's their personal purpose? How can the company give back and support that? So it's a little bit of a different kind of paradigm than it used to be.
Yeah.
Even more so than millennials, actually, just because of the way the world is and technology, social media, mental health, right? You're seeing the conversation really shift. Like mental health was not something that was spoken about in the workplace a lot.
Right. Yeah.
Prior, right? Like I think really, if you could probably say like prior to the pandemic, prior to COVID, that was something that was like, you know, like
sort of, but not
cool,
really.
go see a therapist, right? Like, you know, like that's not something we're going to talk about here. But now it's really shifted, and right, you're seeing skyrocketing rates of anxiety, depression among young people, Gen Z, teenagers, which is really alarming, actually. But then because of that, companies needing to pay attention to it more at work, right?
Yeah.
And not, it can't be just something, oh, deal with that on your own time, deal with that at 8 p.m., 9 p.m. That has to be something that we have resources for at work, or we can at least point people in the right direction. We have a support system. We care about it. We can at least support people on a basic level. Not saying that like, you know, you have to be trained to be a therapist. Like you're not a therapist. You're doing what you're doing, but you have to give care a little bit about what someone's going through.
Empathy.
Have empathy, exactly, and curiosity, and be able to steer them in the right direction.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Even just thinking, you know, you're talking about anxiety being out, you know, anxiety just taking off in Gen Z employees and so forth. But it's really, you know, they are much more exposed to just other influences now, just through social media and such. And so it's like, even as a millennial, like I didn't have that. I'm not looking to, you know, my friend and saying, oh, well, look at what she's doing in her career, right? Like we were just going around and doing what we did and what we knew and leaning in. But like now there are so many distractions. And so how do we create that culture of belonging, but also free of distraction? So.
Yeah, you're constantly kind of comparing yourself to your highlight reels of everybody else.
Yes.
Like you're seeing all the other potential careers or other jobs or other companies out there. And it's hard to stay focused. I mean, not just Gen Z, it's hard for anyone. Like
really.
It's not just young people, like everyone is susceptible to that right now.
Yes.
Right? And so that's just kind of the world, the kind of the modern world right now.
Yeah.
It's very hard for people to stay focused, to not be distracted, to not be comparing, to not be overwhelmed.
Smiley, you've had the opportunity to speak all over the world, many, many different companies, huge companies, Google, Apple, any companies that you can think of, and you don't have to name them if you don't want, but that were just doing it right, where you said, oh, these guys are killing it. And then maybe the flip side of just situations that, this is appalling. Like they are missing the boat. And what did that look like?
Sure. I'll name a company in the former category, but maybe not in the latter.
Yeah.
So I can keep my job.
Yeah, good thinking.
But in the former, there's a company called Asana. They're a task management software company.
Yeah,
they
we use Asana.
Oh, you use Asana?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Project management tool.
Big
very,
time.
very successful. They started, I actually, knew them when they were very small. I had a couple friends that worked there, based in San Francisco. And their founders are both ex-Facebook folks. And they're really interesting because they've always had a real emphasis on culture. They have a slogan called kind of treat culture like a product. So that means, I think, product in two different directions. So product as a product in, like, if you think about those of you that work in tech, like a product is like the app, or the product is something that's constantly evolving, right?
Yeah.
Like whether it's hardware or software, it's something that's always evolving. You're changing a little tweak here. Maybe you're putting a new column. If you're a web designer, you change the UX, you change the design. If you're a podcast, hey, maybe we should put a story right before the intro, right? Like whatever, like you're constantly A/B testing. If you're doing social media, like does that work, or should we do this, or did that post? You're constantly testing, experimenting, and iterating based on the results. Why don't we do that with culture too? Right? For too long, culture has been this like, well, our CEO in 1957 decided that our 7 values are blah, 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 blah. And that's our culture.
Yeah.
And every year we go to, Chuck E. Cheese's and da-da-da. It's like, wait, what?
gosh.
We've hired like 1,000 people since then. We've hired 50 people since then. Like, think about everything that's happened in the world since then. Like, we got to evolve. We got to change. We got to try new things. We have, all of these new voices and new types of people. Like, has our culture evolved with that? So it's treating culture like something that can grow and evolve. And you're taking these values that are like framed in the 8th floor conference room, right? Or on page 57 of the employee handbook, and turning them into tangible programs, right? So you're not just talking about transparency, but they have this, the CEO and leaders get up in front of the whole company and people can ask really hard questions and talk about things that are really hard. And the leaders will talk about them, even if they're really difficult things to talk about, right? So not just talking about growth, but having access to coaching and personal development training for their employees. And I think then the culture as a product, it becomes people want to work there because of the culture too. So the product is actually the culture as well. That's why it's a great place to work. They've been best company culture in tech by Fortune magazine, great place to work. Like they're constantly and very high on all of these rankings. And I think that that's a reason why, like, they're committed to this kind of growth and experimentation and trying new things.
Yeah. I love that.
And it's really important. And I think it starts with kind of founders or C-suite executives. Like, it always starts from the top.
Sure.
To kind of have that be the case. In terms of the companies where it's the other flip side of that, I would say that the theme there is that they're really out of touch and not connecting deeply with their employees. And if they do surveys, they don't listen to what people actually say on the survey. It's like, we got feedback. It's like, well, did you actually look at it? Did you listen to it? Did you follow up with people that said something that was a little constructive or hard to hear? Right?
Yeah.
So, an example of this is like, if every single person in your company wants to work from home at least 1 day a week or 2 days a week, right? Okay, maybe not 5. Maybe they want to work 5 days a week. That's not realistic. But if everyone wants to work and everyone can work remotely, and then you say you have to be back in the office 5 days a week, that makes no sense. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
Right? It just doesn't make sense. Like, there are going to be jobs and positions that have to be in person, right?
Yeah.
If you work at a factory, that is an in-person job. If you work at a restaurant, you work at a hotel, that is an in-person job, period. But then there are jobs that do not need to be, and you can have a hybrid arrangement where people are going to be happier and the data shows that they're more productive. Why are we forcing people back if they're going to be happier, they're going to work harder, they're going to stay longer?
Yeah.
If they have some more flexibility. So that's where it gets to be like, wait, all of your people are saying one thing and you're going to do something else. Like, that's not, that's not an alignment, right? And you're not listening to folks, right? So, and I'm a big proponent of human connection, and I'm a big proponent of the in-person. I believe that in a digital world, we need some of the in-person, but it doesn't necessarily need to be 5 days a week, 365 days a year. For most roles, there are going to be jobs and positions and types of business where that's the case, right? If you work at a car wash, like, you got to be at the car wash. Like, that's what you do.
Virtual car wash.
Right?
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I just think where it gets tricky is companies that are out of alignment with what their people are saying and asking for. And you can't adhere to everything that your people want all the time. You're not going to meet all of those demands. It's impossible. But if you're completely ignoring them, if you're completely going against what they say, if you're not meeting them at least somewhere in the middle there, it's a little bit alarming, and likely that's going to be a culture that does not feel like a place that people want to do their best work or stay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. Well, Smiley, as we wrap this up, and again, for those in our audience that can join us at the Warsaw Growth Summit, you're going to hear much more from Smiley on November 6th. But any final thoughts, things that you'd want to share with the audience, maybe people that are out there that are kind of sitting in a moment of frustration, feeling disconnected, what would be kind of your final words to them today?
Yeah, I would say that with all this stuff, I think it's really about taking small, kind of tiny actions. I think it's like, it can get overwhelming to think about building a culture of belonging and human connection or a purpose-driven culture. And it's a lot of work, a lot of intention, a lot of energy, but it starts with these really small mindset shifts, right?
Yeah.
So like if there's one person today that you can express gratitude today at work or appreciate or send them a text message letting them know that you really appreciate how they showed up or something they've been doing for the team, like that goes a long way. A small little act of kindness, like buying someone coffee on your way in, right? Knowing what their favorite sandwich is from their favorite deli or their favorite lunch place and be like, hey, I'm bringing in lunch today. I wanted to get you a sandwich. Like these little things, I think, go such a long way in this kind of overwhelmed world. So it doesn't take much to just kind of start having an attitude of connection, of appreciation. It's these little things that can go a long way.
Excellent. Excellent. So for people that want to follow you, connect with you, potentially even bring you into their company, where should they connect with you?
Yeah, my website, smileypozwalski.com has everything. I'm on LinkedIn, most pretty active on LinkedIn, Adam Smiley Pozwalski. I'm on Instagram as well, at What's Up Smiley. And you can find me pretty much everywhere on the internet. So I'm out there.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. Well, Smiley, thank you so much for your time today. So great to meet you. Can't wait to meet you in person here in the coming months, but really appreciate you taking the time to share with us today.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Alexis. It was great chatting with you. And I can't wait to see all of you in Warsaw in a couple months.
Perfect. Well, to all of our viewers and listeners, thank you for joining us for another episode of Stories That Move. We'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Stories That Move, brought to you by Dream On Studios.
Make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss the next episode. And remember, if you or your organization have a story you're eager to share with the world, Dream On Studios is here to bring that story to life.
Don't hesitate to reach out. You can find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or visit our website at dreamonstudios.io. We understand how overwhelming it can be trying to bring your vision and story to life, but that's why we exist, and we've walked alongside hundreds of clients doing that very thing.
Yeah. We believe every story has the potential to inspire, to move, and to make a difference. Let's make yours heard.
Until next time, keep moving forward and keep telling those stories that matter.
Take care, everyone. We'll see you next time on Stories That Move.